Well, a very, very happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is October 2nd of 2025. I'm going to try these lightings here if you guys are watching us on our YouTube channel. It gets pretty bright with the overhead lights, and so I have my two spotlights on me, and then I have our lights that we're hanging up around our house. Up here. So going to give that a try. We'll fluctuate. So just new adjustment to be made if you guys are watching us on our YouTube channel. I just want to take a moment and just speak here on behalf of the Cincinnati Reds and my point of view for their fan base. For those who have been maybe preoccupied or busy with work, the Cincinnati Reds dropped their two games. Their 2 out of 3 games. They didn't make it to game 3. They got swept by the Dodgers Tuesday and Wednesday night. Tuesday night was 10-5, and Monday last night was 8-4. And for some, people may feel a little upset, disappointed that the Reds didn't at least maybe made it interesting for the Dodgers or in this wild card series, particularly. With right now, the devastation that we're seeing firsthand coming from the Bengals, I think we thrive and we're eager to want to watch a product out there that are better. And if you saw the performance from the Reds back on Tuesday and Wednesday, the outcome didn't show us anything better than what we could watch on the Bengals roster or games here in the recent weeks. The one thing that I kind of want to just touch base upon is that at the end of the day, if you would have told me that this team made it to the wild card, made it to the postseason, and got a chance to at least contend, I would say you're crazy, and I wouldn't believe you. As a matter of fact, I'd probably not speak to you all year long, and you end up rubbing it in my face when this is all said and done. I think we just have to take a moment and just appreciate what the Reds gave us this past season. Because the year before that, it wasn't any better, right? We come in and we give ourselves a new manager in hopes that with this cheap ball club that we have, that we don't have particularly just one star, but it's everyone making small little efforts into winning this game. And we make it to the wild card, and there's a different atmosphere. There's a different intensity, and you enjoy going to the ballpark. You enjoy watching these Reds team. There's a lot to take away from this season alone, and we will surely dive into those in hopes to discover and peel back that onion of what we can do this offseason to make it, to just get better with ourselves. But finishing off a wild card, a postseason placement, nonetheless, is something that can't go without notice. I'm not saying that we need to be taken a look as a serious team, but now we have this foundation, these stepping stones that our organization can go off of in hopes to build a better team for next year, right? We talk about simple goals and achievements that we want to see. So, and I've been preaching about this all month of September. It was, all right, we have to at least win 500, finish off the season above 500. And we did. We accomplished that. Whether that's one win, whether that's, 2 wins, whether that's 15 wins, the matter of the fact is we finished the season off with a better record than 500. We won more games than we lost games this season. That's a progress being pushed forward. We have seen, I think offensively, it's always a come and go. And I think that we pinpoint one or two guys out of the lineup that has and hold them to an expectation to be this 30 for 30 ball player. When I look at this team, I see a team that does or requires a lot of just basic fundamental baseball. That, yes, days they have, days they don't. It's basically just put the ball in play, make selective and cautious base running skills, and driving in guys in scoring positions. Over this early week series that we saw, yes, it's a loss, but we could take away from this. We saw them work counts. We saw them maybe jump early on. I know Ellie De La Cruz jumped early on some pitches. These are guys who, are fighting, and they fight till, all 28 outs are made, because they were even, they were making some sort of comebacks, bits and pieces. They just couldn't get nothing going, and definitely unlike the Dodgers. Pitching. I think there's a lot of uncertainties with pitching, but, when it comes down to our rotation, how did we improve on from last season? Well, these guys they have less limitations. They're staying healthy. They're getting out there, putting in 5-6 innings of work, which takes loads off of our bullpen. We have guys who we are confident in throwing out every 5 days when a guy like Hunter Green is out. We have multiple guys that we don't just depend on one or two guys overall in our roster. Like I said, we're not perfect. But when you look back on this season and you look back on this postseason, just the 2 games, when you look back and we see, all right, we finished above 500. We made it to the wild card. And I don't care how we made it. Thank you, Miami Marlins. But all it did, it gave us that fine line of touch bases. With a new manager that you question if he still has, if he has lost his touch or not, or if is he capable of managing this team. Well, preferably, we are capable of, I think he's capable of managing this team for the next few years. It gives us a stepping stone, a foundation, a goal to reach, right? I'm already thinking for the 2026 season that the Reds has the expectation not just to place in a wild card, but to be there in a comfortable standpoint, right? They shouldn't be coming down to game 162 if they made improvements, right? The next goal is, okay, I think we just jumped ahead of the season, because our next goal is now how do we win and win a game in the postseason and try to get beyond the wild card, right? Those are our next year stepping stones when we get back to the postseason. But the establishment was get to the postseason, and we accomplished that. So I understand that Cincinnati is bummed. It doesn't help when the Bengals don't play well, but I think there's something to be excited for and to be happy for heading into this offseason. And look, the Dodgers are a really good team, and they are, one of the favorites to win the World Series this season. So, if we lose to a good team and they have success, then by all means. So I think we could walk away with our heads held high in this scenario. But we'll talk a lot more Reds baseball as offseason is among us. That's our next step, is get us through the postseason. Let's take a break, refresh. These guys worked long, hard, and they deserve to go rest a little bit, and we get back at it for next season. All right, before we get started in our sports, we're going to get you guys ready for the weekend sports in Cincinnati. We got the college games pulled up. NFL Week 5 will give you our predictions like we do each and every week. Postseason will continue into the weekend, so I will give you a brief rundown of what I can provide. But before we do that, hey, look, on our channel, we're in full swings. Probably the busiest time of the year, in my opinion. Excuse me. But in our WWE Universe mode, we'll have SmackDown on tomorrow, a main event on Saturday night, and then King and Queen of the Ring tournament, or PLE, excuse me, will take place on Sunday. So stay tuned for all that. Like I said, a busy schedule ahead of us. Wild card weekend, week or whatever series wraps up tonight and tomorrow. Those game wild cards officially been played, just ready to be published. I'm working on that. We have the Cubs and Brewers on for game 2. That's tonight at 8:05. And then we have the Guardians and Astros on game 2. The winners of those games will advance to the game 3, or Houston has the lead over Cleveland from my interpretation. If Cleveland wins, they will force a game 3 tomorrow. Milwaukee has game 1 over the Cubs. If the Cubs could win, they will force game 3 on Friday. Game 1 of the NLDS is expected to play on Saturday. Dodgers and not Dodgers. Is it Dodgers? I got Arizona, or Arizona and Philadelphia or something like that. Arizona, Arizona, Los Angeles, Philadelphia will win. Face the series between the Cubs and Milwaukee tonight. I'm not trying to get this mixed up for once in reality. Sunday we'll have a 5-game basis. Monday we'll have 2. Tuesday we'll have 2. Wednesday we'll have 4 games, and then Thursday and Friday will be 2 apiece, and then Saturday. Those are going to all be as needed. I was coming up with the schedule. So in MLB The Show 25, I mentioned this earlier this week, the schedule's been all nighttime games. Well, come Sunday, I moved some games up front earlier. In this wild card series, I put 2 games at 5 o'clock, and I put 2 games at 8 o'clock so that people can have time to watch them and enjoy them. Well, same thing is going to happen here. But we're actually going to spread it out a little bit more and take advantage of their East Coast to West Coast timeframes. Coming up on October 4th, Philadelphia is at home, the Dodgers at home. I have a 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock game. Following that on Sunday, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and the Dodgers are at home. I will have a 1 o'clock game, the earliest, and an 8 o'clock game as your latest. Stay tuned with the community for more details about the schedule. I also put out those videos that the schedule videos that we have. I'm just trying to take advantage of the schedule and spread out these games because they're all kind of coming into one. So they're not just all winding up at 8 o'clock at night. Off to our football game, in our NFL Madden. All the content's played except for the Bengals this Sunday. I have Thursday Night Football coming up ahead of you in just a few hours as the 49ers and the Rams will take on. They both come in with a 3-1 record. So the battle of the NFC West is upon us here tonight. And we will have another international game as this game will be in London. Tottenham Hotspur, I believe is the stadium. It will be the Vikings and the Cleveland Browns going at it with each other. Then we will have a 4:25 kickoff between the Bengals and Lions. Sunday Night Football between the Patriots and the Bills to wrap up week number 5 with the Kansas City Chiefs and Jacksonville Jaguars. That is still all to come here on our channel. So busy weekend, like I mentioned to you guys ahead. Stay tuned. Don't want to miss anything here today. All right. We did talk about the wrap-up of the wild card. 3 of the 4 games in the wild card series advanced to game number 3. Schedules kind of went iffy here a little bit, but the Tigers and the Guardians at the time of this recording has just started their bowl game. They are in game 3, both split out 1. Padres and the Cubs will take on each other at 5 o'clock later this evening. And the Red Sox and Yankees will square away at 8 o'clock. They've been really good series. And I'm not giving discredit to the Reds and Dodgers, even though it looked like it was a one-sided game majority of the time. But all these other 3 games have been decided by a point or two or run or two in the late going. And so, I kind of been glancing at the television here over the last hour or so, watching this game, keeping tabs, and just the atmosphere. It's playoff season. I haven't really been this into the postseason in recent years. It's not just about the Reds making it. There's just, I guess, there's a energy level to cover it. So coming back on Tuesday, we will touch base with that. The 3 out of 5 game series in the NLALDS will should at least be halfway underway. We'll give some conversation about that hopefully a little bit later on next week. Let's get right down to excuse me, what to expect coming up here and around town. Cincinnati sports gear coming up in NCAA football will begin there at 12 p.m. on Saturday on ESPN2. Is the Big 12 conference matchup as number 14 Iowa State will take on Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati won turn with a 3-1 record and a 1-0 against their division. They beat Kansas last week, so that is note to be mentioned. They're going to be facing a tough, undefeated Iowa State, so their task is ahead of them. That's going to be at Nippert Stadium. Also at noon on ABM, a SCE matchup between Kentucky and number 12 Georgia, as Kentucky enters in with a 2-2 record. They have not won a SCE game yet this season. Georgia, on the other hand, is 3-1. They are 1-1 in the SCE. Wrapping up week in NCAA football here in Cincinnati, in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, we followed the Ohio State Buckeyes as they will host the Minnesota Gophers, I believe. That kickoff is at 7:30 on NBC. It's a Big Ten conference matchup. Minnesota enters in with a 3-1 record, while number 1 Ohio State will enter in still undefeated in this season. MLS, our FC Cincinnati will be on the road taking on the New York Red Devils. Kickoff expects around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This will be taking place at the Sports Illustrated Stadium in New Jersey as well. So that is what's going on in your local sports this weekend, as well as we have the Lions and the Bengals taking place 4:25 p.m. on Sunday, October 5th. The Lions enter in with a 3-1 record as the Bengals enter in with a 2-2. And we already know that conversation that we will have in just a few moments about the Bengals and what they need to do to not only pick up a victory, but to kind of secure the rest of the season heading into this game. Other things going around in the world of sports, beginning next Tuesday, October 7th, we have the beginning of the NHL season. At 5 p.m., the puck drops against Chicago, taking on Florida, while at 8 p.m., Pittsburgh will take on the New York Rangers, and the final game of the triple-header in NHL opening day will be the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Los Angeles Kings. That puck drops at 10:30. Talking about hockey, Cincinnati Cyclones are back here October 18th. They kick things off against the Wheeling Nailers. Puck drops at 7:30. It's a $2 hot dog, $2 beer, and $2 soda night at the Heritage Bank Stadium. I kind of just been out there. I've seen some pictures of the new scoreboard they have. I'm excited for that. First 5,000 fans in attendance will receive a 2025-26 NHL, or not NHL, but Cincinnati Cyclones magnet calendar that will, definitely would help. I definitely enjoy a Cyclones game. I've been to a few of them. It's laid back, it's fun, not really aggressive, but entertaining to say the least. So if you guys are looking to support, get excited for other things this weekend. We have plenty of college football games going on. I know Nippert Stadium on Saturday will be a big packed game, as well as the Cyclones coming up in the upcoming weeks. But with that being said, we take a look at the weekend and what we're looking for this weekend here. With the Reds kind of knocked out of the postseason, we could focus our attention back around to the NFL. It's kind of lined up for us once again. The Steelers have a bye here in week 5. The Vikings and the Browns will play in international territory. They're both the Browns are 1-3. Vikings are 2-2. The Vikings lost to the uh, Steelers last week. And that kickoff is at 9:30. So if you're headed out to church, maybe watch just bits and pieces of it. Should be back in time before the Texans and the Ravens, who are both 1-3 heading into this game. And then don't forget our game, the Lions and the Bengals. This is a stripe out game. If you guys are headed to the game, check your area, check your rows, your tickets, and check and see what you're requested to wear. It's either black or orange. And so that's an exciting feature that the Bengals have. They'll display that, I believe, this week here against the Lions. When I look at this division, for me, it looks like the Steelers may have an opportunity to run away and separate themselves from everyone else. And I say that here in recent days only because, the Ravens really got pinged up last week. And I don't know how much we knew. A lot of people that were questionable heading into this week against Houston, but we really don't know to what extent and how long they're going to be out. If Steelers can capitalize and take advantage of this, of a beat up Ravens team, who I believe is the only threat to this division, then they may very well find themselves in a AFC North division title. But when we look at the Ravens, they face Houston. They're 1-3. And I'm not panicking. I'm not worried. I don't think that there's an argument yet to be made if they're playoff worthy. Yeah, they gotten off to a slow start, but we've seen some really good teams get off to a slow start. AFC seems like they're getting off to a slow start overall. But with that being said, we're looking at, if the disadvantage that the Ravens have heading into, moving forward, is that they have lost against the two considerably top teams in the NFL or in the AFC conference. So if this does come down to seeding in the postseason, the Ravens are not right up there. So that's the only, I think, concern I have. I'd give it a few more weeks. And if they still seem to struggle, then I would say maybe not this year. They may be on the outside looking in. This is why, though, we talk about getting off to a hot start, because now we have room for wriggle, but it seems like the Bengals have exerted their room for wiggleness a little bit early here. They got off to a nice 2-0 start. Then they kind of just, in embarrassing fashions, have dropped the last two games against the Vikings and against the Broncos. Now, it's not like these games were decided by a field goal or even a touchdown. These games were decided was over before the second half even started. And, I don't believe that we need to look at our coaching staff quite yet. And maybe we do, maybe we don't. But at the end of the day, it's how you play on the field. We know what the Bengals defense gives out. And there's no room for errors right now, especially in the next couple weeks where we don't have easy teams coming across. First game, Lions this Sunday. 4:25 is an afternoon game. But this game's very important to get back on the winning track. We need to reestablish fundamental football. And how do we do that? I think, we talked about, I think this has been the conversation for the Bengals for the past couple weeks. but this has been established the run game. We already know that the Bengals are going to give up 20 to 30 points every Sunday. The difference maker of all that is if the Bengals, how much offense they can produce. And to be honest, we haven't seen any offense from anyone. So, I brought up this question, and I'm going to stand by it. The trade deadline is coming up. I really do believe that the Bengals should be looking at making improvements to their offense. And I don't know where we sit at, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals say, you know what, we just don't have it financially in our budget to bring in anybody or to trade for anybody to help improve where we need help at. But where do we need help at? I think we need someone better than Jake Browning. There's quarterbacks out there right now that are playing second string, if not third string on the practice squad, that will love an opportunity to showcase what they have in hopes to get a starting position for the Bengals. I believe we have Desmond Ridder on the practice squad. I do, but there's guys like, Heineke. Shedeur Sanders right now is not being played. He's being benched. There's just players. I think it's time to find a temporary replacement. Not saying that Jake Browning isn't good enough, but he's not well decorated. You could see the flaws as a starting quarterback where he's maybe narrow-minded. He's, all right, my target is 1 and 2 over here on the far side of the field, and that's all he's focused about. And he redirects his attention to that instead of creating plays. We talk about another placement that we need. What about our running backs? We talked about last week or earlier about last week's Monday night game, how Chase Brown, received more than he rushed. And so I strongly believe our categories where we need improvement on as a Bengals unit is going to fall upon Jake Browning's improvement, if not bringing a quarterback that can improve, and then improving our run game. And I think we can. I don't know if we're tipping our hats, if we're doing something different. I do believe that we can, but until we show ourselves that we could do this, then, I'm sorry, but we gotta find a way to make changes. If we don't make any decisions, any changes, it's a gut wrenching. It's giving up. Let's get ready for Reds season next year. But if we can get through this, then these are categories where I think we need to improve on. Alrighty, we are heading into week number 5. Last week I was 9 for 16 in my picks. I didn't quite have a lot of confidence going in. There was a lot of outcomes that kind of went a certain way, but it didn't. But I'm gonna give you my picks here for week number 5, beginning tonight. At 8:15, we have the 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Both teams come in at 3-1 with their record. Home field advantage in the NFC West Division. I like the bounce back from the Rams. They had that home game win against what was it? They had last week's win, where they beat the Indianapolis Colts at home. 49ers, on the other hand, they lost against Jacksonville. And so I have the Rams picking up a Thursday night football victory. All right, we have that early game at 9:30 in the morning, the international game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. The Minnesota Vikings have been out there in London for the past 2 weeks. I know they lost against the Steelers last week. Close game, 31-24. And the Browns lost to the Detroit Lions, who I wasn't expecting that. I was anticipating that loss. I think that the Vikings, maybe with another week's rest, will have a good hand coming into this game, and I believe they will pick up the victory. All right, this is that 1:00 game. The Houston Texans and the Ravens. Both teams are 1-3. Texans are coming off of a Titans shutout win last week. The Ravens are coming off being banged up and losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this would be a good opportunity and time for the Texans to keep their momentum going and picking up that victory. Although it all is going to depend on the status of Lamar Jackson. So, when in doubt, I pick the safe team. I want Houston to win, but I'm going Baltimore in this scenario. They just have too much talent to give up. Another 1:00 game we have between the Miami Dolphins and the Carolina Panthers. Both teams 1-3. Tua Tagovailoa picked up his first victory of the season campaign last Monday night against the New York Jets. Carolina lost to the Panthers 42-13. I know we're at home, but I see Miami winning this one here to give them 2 in a row. All right, the Raiders over in Indianapolis. It's 3-1 versus 1-3. I don't know. I'm not believing. Listen, I understand that Geno Smith and Pete Carroll had a small little history while in Seattle years ago. Obviously, we're not seeing that front step working out again. They're in a different territory, and they're finding themselves separating themselves at the bottom of the division very rapidly. Colts, on the other hand, yes, they lost to the Rams. I think that was understandable. But I feel that because they're back at home, they could easily beat the Raiders. So I had them picking up a victory, and they'll move to 4-1. The Giants over in the Saints. Saints have not won a game this season. The Giants picked up a very impressive win over the Chargers. I have the Giants in this meeting carrying on that momentum. The Dallas Cowboys did not disappoint Sunday Night Football, but did not pick up a victory. They've tied with the Packers. They move 1-2-1. They take on the 0-4 Jets. I think the Cowboys come away with this one. I got the Denver Broncos, who picked up an impressive win taking on the Eagles. I have the Eagles winning this one. I don't know another team that I could vote against the rest of the season going up against the Eagles. So they may as well just finish the season off undefeated. The Titans, who have not won a game, this is a 4:00 game, taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I think Arizona is going to walk away with this victory. I don't know when Tennessee is going to put their first win up on the board. 4:05, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. This is an interesting one. We're in Seattle. Atmosphere is different. They're both 3-1. Baker Mayfield wants to make a comeback from a loss against Philadelphia. He still believes that he's, if not there, right about to be there in the NFC, and I got to agree with them. So I got the Buccaneers over that one. We got the Bengals and Lions at Paycor Stadium at 4:25. I can't go the Bengals. If I'm playing this, if I want to get as many correct as possible, I can't go against the Bengals until they could prove to me that they could establish the run game, that they can, connect. Jake Browning's a short pass reception. That's fine. Take advantage of it. but they're going up against the Lions, so I think we'll demolish them. We have the Commanders, who are 2-2 over at SoFi Stadium to take on the Chargers. They're 3-1. I think that one loss just kind of, every team's going to have a loss. Every team's going to lose a game or two, maybe three. Chargers, that was one of them last week. I don't think they make too many mistakes. They come back and win. Buffalo Bills home against the New England Patriots, the only undefeated team in the AFC East. Buffalo Bills should run away with that on Sunday Night Football. The final game on Monday night, Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not saying, I know we have questioned Kansas City's defense. I know we questioned Kansas City's offense, but a win or two kind of just pushes them along towards that momentum. And no matter what happened back on a Sunday afternoon, we saw Kansas City pick up another victory. And so, against Trevor Lawrence, still, I think Patrick Mahomes is better. So I have Kansas City winning that one. 4 teams are on the bye this week: the Atlanta Falcons, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm interested in seeing and hearing from what you guys have to say about week 4 in the NFL, or week 5. What teams do you expect? Is there any, my biggest question coming out here is the Bengals need to get the ball rolling. They got a couple weeks that is going to be very tough, because if we don't win here on Sunday, we go to Lambeau Field, where we know we're probably definitely not going to win. So it's going to come down to, well, how do we, can we reestablish ourselves? And if so, this is the week to do so. If not, what moves are we making to improve ourselves? Because if we don't make a single move before the trade deadline, you're telling me that we had this big hassle with Trey Hendrickson this preseason, finally re-signed him, just for us to have a terrible year. And if that's the case, I'd be so livid. We'd be wasting time. We'd be wasting resources. We'd be wasting money. And unless you're planning on trading him, and at the time, I don't know what the value would be for him. But, we're barely hanging on, and this division can be blown away very quickly if we don't capitalize on these situations. That is all the time I have for you guys today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are watching us on our YouTube channel, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Don't forget to have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Be sure to check out and have those notifications on for football, baseball, and for professional wrestling, as we have a busy schedule ahead of you guys here this weekend. We will be back on Tuesday to give our updates and analysis of week number 5 in the NFL, and as we move into the AL-NLDS series here. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and like I said, if you guys are listening to us, thank you. Appreciate your time and efforts and keeping you guys wherever you guys are listening from. And until next week, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy Thursday Night Football and enjoy the postseason playoffs for Major League Baseball. You guys take care.